Right then, lads, welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the afternoon edition. We're going to be discussing Yuri Tilemans agreeing that Arsenal deal. He will move to the Emirates Stadium. He's told his agents he would love to move to the Emirates Stadium, despite the fact that Arsenal do not have UEFA Champions League football. That is a huge boost into Arsenal's pursuit for the player. Ruben Neves back on the radar, and Serge Milinkovic-Savic as well back on the radar. Arsenal are looking at the Lazio man, and they will be willing to pay over 45 million. Lazio feel that is a little bit not enough. We'll talk about that. Paul Mason feels Arsenal should be paying a lot of money, all the money in the world, to get Romelu Lukaku. Of course, Paul Mason, they're quoted by the Standard saying that Arsenal should be doing whatever they can to sign Romelu Lukaku. We'll have our reaction on the podcast for that. But of course, we'll also talk about Rafinha and the conditions he has set this afternoon for if he's going to join any club other than Leeds. So with all that information coming your way, do me a favor, hit the like button. I want 300 likes on this video, so make sure you get it to 300. Make sure you do not rest until it is 300 likes, and also subscribe to the podcast. We're very close to 50,000 subscribers. We are around 900 subscribers away. Just 900. We could do that within a day. So make sure you subscribe and join the family. Now, the Cossy Talks Football is out there. There is a lot of content for you on that channel. Make sure you just type into your YouTube Cossy Talks Football. The link is also in the description. We've talked about Rafinha, and we've also talked about Marquinhos joining Arsenal. Short content, very short content, 3 minutes, 4 minutes for you, that is a little bit more digestible. And of course, we offer more perspective on this channel when you want a little bit of length. But of course, let's get to the content. Let's start off with Yuri Tilemans and the story coming in this afternoon. Yuri Tilemans has turned down offers from Juventus and Tottenham Hotspur for Arsenal. Now, it looks like Mikel Arteta spoke to Yuri Tilemans. He told him he wants him at the club, and it's going to be a major signing for Arsenal Football Club. He has a major role for him, and he's going to be a starter for Arsenal come next season. A couple of clubs have been interested in the player. The first conditions that he set were that any club that is interested in him, or any club that wants to take him this summer, should have UEFA Champions League football. That was the original feeling around the player and around his camp. A couple of clubs with UEFA Champions football actually contacted the agents, including Real Madrid, who eventually signed Aurelien Tchouameni, including Juventus and also Tottenham Hotspur. Now, information I can confirm, and the information I'm getting, is that the player will not be joining Tottenham Hotspur, and he will not be moving to Juventus. He's apparently told his agents that he would fancy a move to the Emirates Stadium. That is a huge boost for me for Arsenal. Given the fact that I do not believe all the stories that have been claiming that there is no club that has qualified for Champions League football that would love to take Yuri Tilemans. It is utter nonsense. It is absolute nonsense. Even when Man United are tracking Frankie de Jong, I still think their interest in Yuri Tilemans that has been present for around 1 or 2 years is still very likely. The likes of Liverpool, after missing out on Aurelien Tchouameni, all those clubs are available and they want the player. But of course, Mikel Arteta has tried as much as he can to convince the midfielder. Is one of his priorities. He loves him and he really understands what he wants to do with him. The feeling is that Mikel wants him to be a left attacking midfielder. He wants him to play on the left-hand side of the midfield. Odegaard operating on the right-hand side currently, predominantly. So you want someone who can play on the left-hand side of the midfield. Emile Smith-Rowe was structured originally for that role, but it looks like Emile Smith-Rowe wants to play a little bit wider than in the midfield. So Yuri Tilemans joining Arsenal. He has agreed to joining Mikel Arteta's project. Then it is going to be in the hands of Arsenal Football Club. Can we make a bid to Leicester City as soon as possible? Fabrizio Romano confirmed that we are going to be having talks with Leicester City for the player. come next week. And of course, that week is going to be a very, very huge one for Arsenal in the pursuit of our priorities, Gabriel Jesus and Yuri Tilemans. But at the moment, Tilemans will be moving to the Emirates Stadium if Arsenal can make a bid and can find an agreement between them and Leicester City. Personal terms are not expected to be a huge problem. He's not one of the players that are asking for huge wages this summer. And of course, remember, he's not working on a free. He still has 1 year on his contract. Something that really works for Arsenal. First and foremost, that doesn't give him the liberty and dread to ask for big wages. But then also, it helps us to pay very, very little, or at least a considerable fee for the player to Leicester City. So 30 to 35 million euros, like reported earlier, is what Arsenal will be paying. Player will be moving to the Emirates if a deal can be structured between the two clubs. That is a massive boost for Mikel Arteta as he looks at him as a major signing and a priority this summer. Now, talking about midfield reinforcements, back on the radar is Ruben Neves. In the morning, I spoke about Ruben Neves, and I said Arsenal already were interested in Ruben Neves. They were actually looking at two players as priorities in the summer in terms of a midfielder, Ruben Neves and Yuri Tilemans. Now, the feeling around Ruben Neves is that Wolves will not get into negotiations with any club that does not have 75 million euros for the player. Now, Arsenal feel that is a little bit too high. Manchester United as well had benchmarked him as one of the best midfielders in the Premier League and one of the top targets for them, but they feel 75 million euros for Ruben Neves is a little bit off the mark. So it looks like Arsenal are still considering Ruben Neves if that deal for Yuri Tilemans doesn't come through, but then Wolves will have to reduce their asking price significantly. For me, 50 million euros is what Arsenal should be paying for Ruben Neves, or even below 50 million euros, around 45 million euros, because his contract is not running down very, very soon. It runs down in 2024. So those 2 extra years could just give Wolves the bargaining power, but I don't see them getting anything above 50 million euros in Ruben Neves. He's a good player, very, very consistent, very, very durable. He can play for you 38 games in a campaign. Very strong midfielder. Defensively is okay, and also the offensive part of his game is absolutely clear. But 75 million, for me, that is a little bit a lot of money. Yes, he's what Arsenal are looking for. Someone can play as a 6 and also as an 8. He would actually tick all the boxes. You can play him as a left central midfielder as well. But let's wait and see if Wolves will be willing to reduce on their asking price for Ruben Neves this summer. Barca, Man United, as reported earlier, are also other clubs that are interested in him. But talking about the central midfield and players that Arsenal are really interested in, there is resumed interest in Serge Milinkovic-Savic of Lazio in Italy. Now, Arsenal wanted Serge Milinkovic-Savic last summer and also last summer but the player was not for sale. The feeling this summer is that Serge will not be extending his contract with Lazio. Lazio are asking for around 60 million euros. Arsenal are only offering 45 million euros for the player. Of course, that is the budget Arsenal have for a midfielder. I don't think Arsenal are going to spend more than 45 million euros on a midfielder. Serge Milinkovic-Savic linked with Manchester United last summer very, very strongly, with the feeling that United thought they were going to bring in a central midfielder or a defensive midfielder, and then that deal didn't actually come through. Arsenal, like I said, I've been tracking him for some time. He can play as a number 6, he can play as a single pivot, and he can also play as a central midfielder. So the feeling for me around Serge Milinkovic-Savic is that if he comes into Arsenal, he could be a very great backup for Thomas Partey, especially when, the confirmation, probably, you could call it, that Thomas Partey cannot give us 28, 29, 30, 38 games in a campaign. He's only going to be averaging 25 games per campaign. and he's a quality player. So you just need a quality player to back him up. You need a quality player in that role to make sure that when Thomas Partey leaves, when Thomas Partey gets injured, you do not lose the quality. But of course, Thomas Partey is also going to be playing in AFCON January 2023. The qualifiers are already underway. So Arsenal is preparing for that period when you have so many games and then you don't have your star man in that single pivot as Thomas Partey. So Serge Milinkovic-Savic, very, very talented lad, very, very good player. If Arsenal brought him in, I think that would add, again, another extra layer of quality. He's not very young, around 24, 25 years of age. Actually, I think 27 years of age at the moment. So he comes in with the experience in the midfield, has a very, very good work rate. If Arsenal want to bring him in, if Arsenal can pay the 60 million euros that Lazio is asking for, I don't think they will get 60 million euros, but if they can agree a deal with Lazio, then he's one player I would definitely take at Arsenal Football Club. Now, away from the midfield, Paul Mason has said that Romelu Lukaku should be signing for Arsenal, or rather, Arsenal should be trying to sign Romelu Lukaku. He's actually said that Arsenal have taken a long time without having a very, physical striker, someone who is physically able, someone who can, fight defenders, battle with defenders, and win those battles. And in my opinion, I've spoken about this in that video that I did. One player that Arsenal should sign from every Premier League club, and I said at Chelsea I would definitely go for Romelu Lukaku. I do not believe Romelu Lukaku is a bad striker like he's made at Chelsea. I don't think Chelsea players are really creating enough. Ben Chilwell and Reece James this season have been absolutely phenomenal for scoring goals as fullbacks, but not for creating chances for the striker. Mason Mount is not creating that much. Kai Havertz and the likes of Hakim Ziyech are also not creating that much. So I don't think Romelu Lukaku has actually got the service he deserves as a striker. He's not got the ball into his feet as many times as he would have wanted it, and that's why he's crying out to go back to Inter Milan, because that is a club that understands him. That is a system that would really definitely suit him. But for me at Arsenal, Romelu Lukaku would be a very, very marquee signing. One player that can guarantee you 20 goals per campaign if you give him the service, but then also a player that gives us a very, very different kind of dimension. Gives us some superiority on area balls in the penalty area. Apart from Gabriel Magalhaes, I've not seen so many other Arsenal defenders trying to win area balls. He scored 5 goals this campaign, Gabriel Magalhaes. I think four of them have been headers. But how many other headers have we scored this season? You think about that of Thomas Partey. Partey's goal against, I think, was Leicester City. They've not been very, very many goals scored by Arsenal with headers. So I think with players like Kieran Tierney crossing in balls all the time, you need someone in that area. You need a fox in the box. You need someone who can create a lot of fear for defenders in the Premier League, the likes of Virgil van Dijk, someone who can match them physically, someone who can be as clinical, of course, as Romelu Lukaku. He's met a couple of sitters at Chelsea, but I don't think that one season washes away all what he's done at Inter Milan. So for me, just like Paul Mason, I think if I'm Arsenal, I'm going for Romelu Lukaku. I'm trying to get him. Yes, it's a difficult deal. It's a very, very difficult deal. It could be 50 million euros in terms of a loan deal. That is a very, very expensive one. The wages of the player are absolutely astronomical. He's looking to go back to Inter Milan, but the problem is the wages. In my opinion, in my case, if Arsenal can agree a deal for Romelu Lukaku, one signing that I would do, and I feel we've done that, let's get because we already have Martin Odegaard to feed him. Then have Kieran Tierney as well. You have the likes of Saka. I think Saka and Martin Odegaard have been among the top 7 players, top 7 players to create the most number of chances in the Premier League last campaign. So that shows you, if you can find a good striker, if you can find someone good enough to get at the end of those chances, to get at the end of those balls, then more goals will be coming in. Romelu Lukaku, is he the man? In my opinion, he can be. And finally, Rafinha has said that any club that wants him should be able to give him game time. He's going to be considering game time. He's going to be considering how much of a starter, how many starts a club is willing to offer him amid Arsenal interest and FC Barcelona. Of course, coming into Arsenal, I think Rafinha will be getting in the game time. He can bench Martinelli, he can bench anyone on the left wing, and to be very, very sure, if I'm not really mistaken, I think Arsenal just need someone like him, right? I think if I'm Mikel Arteta, I would call him and tell him, bro, we just need someone like you. So in this afternoon, that is what is happening around the club. I'll make sure that I let you know about whatever is going on. 300 likes on the video, guaranteed. I'll speak to you tomorrow.